Alright people, going live on the site this week, we are back in New Mexico, but this time we are in the southern part of the state, namely Otero County, down here. And within Otero County, our new listings are more specifically in Cloudcroft, or as I like to call it, the jewel of southern New Mexico. Now, people, before we get into the details of today's specific property, I want to first talk about this region, number one, because there's a lot to discuss about it, but number two, because the types of communities and properties you find out here are not as common in other parts of the state, and certainly not the types of properties we typically buy and sell. Point being, there are some unique advantages to owning land here, as well as just some, we'll say, idiosyncrasies of the area that buyers should be aware of. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's go through it. Thing number one, the town of Cloudcroft is located over here where the 82 meets the 130. You will notice these two highways circle around on each other in an area I have taken to calling the Loop, trademarked. Whatever the case, if you were to leave Cloudcroft going east along the 82 and circle back around on the 130, you would find a number of small residential subdivisions along the north and south of both highways. More on that in a bit. Whatever the case, the town of Cloudcroft ends up being a convenient stop for all the residents of this area. The town itself has a population of roughly 1,000 people, and despite being relatively small, it still has a good amount of what we will call rustic charm. It's got some personality, people, okay? More to the point, however, if you live here, you'll have easy access to the post office, the bank, medical facilities, schools, and churches, not to mention some restaurants and shops. Now, if you end up developing land out here, this obviously is going to be the closest location for some minor groceries and supplies. They've got a hardware store, for instance, but the nearest Walmart, Home Depot, big box store type places are roughly 30 minutes west in Alamogordo or an hour north into Ruidoso. Okay, next, thing number two. When we go back to the map, we will see that Cloudcroft and all the surrounding areas are green. That is because this area sits in the midst of over 1.1 million acres that make up the Lincoln National Forest. And if you own land here, you will have easy access to all the hiking trails, picnic areas, campgrounds, and of course hunting that is available within this region. And for the record, guys, most all the residential lots we have ever purchased out here either literally back up to federal land that is the forest, or they sit like one short block away from it. In fact, most of these residential subdivisions are relatively small, maybe 500 parcels each, something like that. Point being, wherever you live within any of these communities, it's very easy to access the forest. Simultaneously, it's very easy for the forest to access you, more specifically critters. We've had our photographer around here a couple times, and he always ends up sending back shots like this, this, and this. Point being, they're around, they're friendly, they've gotten used to the people, and if you do end up buying land out here, make sure you stock up on apples so you've got something to feed them. Okay, next, thing number three. In combination with the forest and the trees, you've got mountains. Cloudcroft sits at a higher elevation, and this is a very mountainous region. Now, one benefit to this is that this is a popular skiing destination. In fact, if we go back to the map, we'll see that Ski Cloudcroft sits within this region. Our photographer was here when it was warm out, but a simple Google image search will show you what this normally looks like in the winter months. Whatever the case, if you enjoy winter sports, you have Ski Cloudcroft just down the street, or Ski Apache a little further north in Alto. More to the point, however, I mentioned the fact that this area is mountainous because if you're buying land to develop a home site, you should be prepared for the fact that most of the land out here has what we will call a pronounced slope or pitch. It's not uncommon for properties to rise or fall by 20 to 40 feet from one end of the parcel to the other. And that is why if you look at home sites out here, you will find a number of homes built with stilts or pilings. And depending on the subdivision it's in, that can take the form of maybe a 1,200-foot cabin that looks like this, to, let's say, a more, we'll use the word opulent, log cabin home like this. Point being, guys, however daunting it may seem to build on a property with this kind of pitch, it's important to keep in mind that this is actually quite common out here. And if you're hiring a contractor in the area, it's very likely they know exactly what to do because they've done it a million times before. Now, keep in mind, guys, this is not to suggest that all the properties we sell out here will look like this. Occasionally we come upon ones that are actually quite flat, the terrain is level and easier to build on, but it's my way of saying that forested hillside lots are very much the norm for this region. Okay, next, thing number four. The average lot size in all the subdivisions out here is somewhere between 1/5 of an acre and 1/3 of an acre. So 0.20, 0.33, something like that. That's how most of these communities were originally platted. Now, for those of you who are aware of lot size restrictions in New Mexico, you will be glad to know that all of the properties can still be developed. You can still build on all of them. Why? Because all of these communities have their own water utilities usually in the form of a community well. In fact, one subdivision out here gets its water from a waterfall that runs through the forest and feeds into a large pond, which they then clean and detoxify and turn into drinking water. How do they do it? I don't know. What am I, a scientist? I don't know how it's done, guys. I just know that it's done and everyone has clean drinking water and everyone's happy. The point is that in some form or another, all of the communities have a water utility, and anyone who builds out here will not need to drill a well. Now, of course, there will be a water tap hookup fee in some regions or a monthly water bill in others, but the point is you won't have to worry about drilling a well, and that can be a huge savings. Now, in saying all of this, you would think that there are some pretty strict HOAs out here. That, however, brings us to our final thing number 5, HOAs. Some subdivisions have them, many do not. And of course, when you hear community well or water tap fees, you would think there would be some governing organization for the rest of the subdivision that oversees construction or road maintenance or dues collections, but in most of the ones I have run into, it's really not a thing. Now, keep in mind, guys, this is a part of New Mexico where, how shall we say, people like their government small, okay? So that probably explains this dynamic, but the point of mentioning all this is that it is one of the few parts of the state that I have ever encountered with both readily available water without some strict governing body. Now, with all of this out of the way, if we go back to the map here, we will see that the property we're going to talk about sits right here along the 82, just a few miles down the road from Cloudcroft and Ski Cloudcroft, and more specifically just south of the 82 in this small subdivision right here. This sub is called Cloud Country West, and they're easy to identify when you're driving on the highway because they have a big fancy arch in their entrance, which reads, you guessed it, Cloud Country West. Now, the subject property is located here along Maverick Road, which, as we can see, has a well-maintained gravel consistency. It is a 0.23 acre property, so a little more than a fifth of an acre, and it has developed home sites on the neighboring lot to its south and another home site 2 lots north. Here along Maverick, we have power and underground utilities, and the parts of the property that do not have road frontage on them are staked with property boundaries. This, of course, cuts down on the mystery of where exactly does my lot begin and end, and saves you some money on a survey in the process. Speaking of saving you money, this parcel distinguishes itself from a lot of what you find not only in this region, but within this specific subdivision, because it is both lightly treed and largely flat. So if you remember how 2 minutes ago I made a big deal about how all the properties are densely forested and on sharply descending hillsides, well, this property is neither. That, of course, will make it easier to develop as we don't have to worry about clearing a bunch of trees or getting the Army Corps of Engineers in to figure out how to build a house on it. I joke, but you get my point. It's level, it's flat, which in this area is rare and thus more valuable. Now, as noted earlier, Cloud Country West has water service for its residents. That takes the form of a community well, which you can access by paying a $3,500 tap installation fee to the association. Now, before I get to this, let me just briefly say, as I mentioned earlier, some of these subs have water associations only, and some have both a water association and a homeowners association. Some of those HOAs are, we'll say, in name only, meaning good luck getting anyone on the phone, much less worrying about whether they're going to come out to your property to inspect the height of your rhododendrons. As you have probably guessed, however, from the fancy archway, Cloud Country West has an active HOA. Now, that doesn't mean a strict HOA, it just means an active one. Point being, they have a website which elaborates further on how the tap installation fees work, as well as the quality and condition of the well. Now, if you come back here to the listing page, the property details section, and click on the Access and Utilities tab, you will see that we have provided more information for this. This, however, is mostly us quoting what's on their surprisingly informative website. So if you click this link here, it will take you to their site, where you can read more. If we come back here and click on the Zoning Restrictions tab, we are provided some additional information about the realities of developing a home site out here. Now, more specifically, we have the Covenants and Restrictions document, which goes into far greater detail than I can adequately summarize here. It's important to note, however, guys, that Cloud Country West does have an Architectural Control Committee. These are typically a group of 3 or 5 people who live in the area who oversee and approve building plans. Now, of course, that can sound intimidating to people, but what's important to keep in mind is this is really a group of people who want to protect their property values. If you've got a contractor and he's put together plans for a home which conforms to state building codes, then you probably won't have any problems. If, however, you show up with your friend Porno Dan and announce plans to live out of a renovated school bus, they're probably going to tell you to pound sand. Point being, a little bit of logic goes a long way. And fortunately for anyone who lacks logic, we have provided pictures, people, of a number of home sites found throughout this very community. You can review these in the photo gallery at the bottom of the page, but they're meant to give you a sense of what we'll call the breadth and depth of structure types, building materials, paint colors, everything that's been approved in the past. And of course, what you can get from reviewing this is that aesthetic uniformity is not as important in this community as simply developing something which looks respectable. And of course, guys, if you have questions about this, it's always best to contact the Cloud Country West Owners Association in advance and just have an honest conversation with them. I'm looking to buy some land in your region. I want to build a home like this. Can I do it? What do I need to know? Etc. I'm sure they'll be happy to answer your questions and give you a more realistic sense of what that approval process is like. Finally, guys, a couple quick answers to questions I know some of you all will ask. Number one, there is no time limit on building out here. You can buy the land, own it for 100 years, do nothing with it, and you'll be fine. The minute your plans are approved and you put a shovel in the ground, however, that's when the clock starts. From then, you will have 12 months to complete construction. Number two, the annual dues out here are $620 for lots that have been developed, meaning a structure has been built, and a mere $80 a year for what they call standby lots or undeveloped lots. And number three, in case it needs to be said, properties in Cloud Country West are not meant to be used recreationally. This is not the type of land you buy to park an RV or go camping on for a couple weeks or months at a time. This is land that is meant to be used for residential purposes. Now, can you live out of an RV while you're building the primary structure? Certainly, most all communities allow for that. But the point is, if that's what you're looking to do with the land you buy, this is not the property for you. And finally, guys, two miscellaneous facts about this community. First off, they have a community fishing pond, which is made available to residents from April to October and is stocked with various types of fish. The cost to use that pond is $50 per household. And miscellaneous fact number two is that located just outside the community along Highway 82 is the James Canyon Fire Department, which, of course, is always a good thing to have close by when you are living in densely forested regions like this one. So if you would like to purchase this property, we have one of two ways in which you can do it. For cash buyers, those who can pay the entire purchase price all at once, simply come up here, click the Buy Now button, and you will be taken to this screen, which details the purchasing process for you, whether you elect to pay our company directly or if you prefer to close and fund the deal through title and escrow. Either way, the whole thing begins with a $500 deposit, and then we get you documentation within 24 hours. If you elect to pay us directly, that documentation will include a copy of a new deed, which, once approved by you, we will sign, notarize, and mail off to the county. The county will record it, and congratulations, the property will officially be yours. And yes, guys, it's really that easy. If, however, you do not trust paying this much money over the internet to people you've never met, we completely understand. Fortunately for you, we have the title escrow option, and the way that one works is that you place the $500 down, we get you a sale purchase agreement, you sign it, we sign it, submit it to the title company, and they do the rest. And when we say do the rest, guys, that includes, but is not limited to, giving us a new deed to sign and requesting funds from you. Funds, which, by the way, will be released to us only once the property has been deeded into your name and recorded with the county. If, however, you do not have the entire purchase price of the land right now today, that brings us to the second way in which you can purchase this property, and that is with our owner financing option, aka an affordable down payment, followed by subsequent monthly payments. And if we click the Buy Now button on this option, we will learn what the terms are on this specific property with the down payment, monthly payment, term, and interest rate described up here. And the way this one works is that once you place the $500 down, we get you documentation, again, within 24 hours, which, again, we are going to run through title and escrow. And mind you, guys, when you're doing owner financing, we're basically loaning you money, which you pay back slowly over time. And thus, we want to make sure that that loan is originated properly, per the laws within that state, and that both our interest in the land, as well as your right to it, are protected. Point being, we send the contract off to title, and over the course of the next 30 to 45 days, their attorneys draft these state-specific agreements, and upon completion, they will collect the remainder of the down payment from you, set up recurring billing, and they will handle both the collection and disbursement of funds for the remainder of that contract. And of course, over the life of the loan, our company will have a lien on the property. It's called lien in first position. And once all the payments have been made and contractual obligations fulfilled, that lien will be lifted and the property officially deeded to you. And of course, as with all of our listings, guys, we have a copy of the contract we use to initiate these transactions linked here. That way you can review it and know exactly what you'll be asked to sign before placing even $1.